This is quite urgently the best setup that I have ever seen for crypto, for blockchain, for Bitcoin, for this entire industry. And meanwhile, we have some of the most ice-cold social metrics I've ever seen in crypto. This is the setup for an absolute rocket-fueled, sideliner coping bull run of titanic proportions. We're gonna go through absolutely everything, including the biggest announcement, of course, which is that the project I've been working on, Black Hole, is fast approaching and it's launching tomorrow. We'll have more details on that, as well as your ability to earn some Black Hole airdrops. Make sure that you stay tuned and watch this all the way through, because YouTube views and subscribers are at bear market lows. Whales are buying ETH like it's mid-2020. All the while, there are record leveraged shorts against the Ethereum asset, which could be the reason why ETH snaps to 10K in a single candle. Which has moonboys like me painting cup and handle charts on the log chart here, which would of course have a target of above $20,000 per ETH. Trump is committed to overspending and driving assets, and of course crypto, through the ceiling in valuations. Eric Trump finally returned to collect some clout on his tweet earlier this year that it's a good time to buy Bitcoin. 99.3% of the world's value is still not on chain, and we're pretty sure that it will be. And not a single one of the 30 bull market peak indicators has triggered yet. And when you realize that all of this combines with the fact that the Fed has not even started cutting rates, it leaves you with one particular conclusion. And that is that things are going much, much higher. Now, of course, there's always the potential for some volatility, some left tail risk, some black swan that drops the market. But all things considered, it feels like this is the magic moment for crypto. This is the magic moment for altcoins. This is the magic moment for Ethereum. And this is the magic moment for our entire industry, as the US is set to vote on not one, not two, but 3 massive pieces of crypto legislation that will take this industry into the new millennium and give it the full regulatory green light that we've been waiting on for almost 16 years in crypto land. That's right, we are at a crossroads. And while anything can happen, and anything will inevitably happen here in crypto land, the risk reward for being allocated to this industry is something to behold. Now, of course, things tend to look the best near cycle tops. I'm not saying that there's any guarantee here. In fact, quite the opposite. If you've been following this channel, you know that sometimes we go on generational runs, hitting 10s, 20, 30s, 50, and 100x plays. And sometimes we get kicked in the teeth. That's the way crypto is. When you're right, you can print money. And when you're wrong, you can lose it all. That is the nature of the gamble. You have a 50-50 shot of being right. But if you're right, you make a whole lot more money than if you're wrong. Today, we're going to be going into the altcoins that I think are going to perform the most, what I'm holding and what I'm most excited for this next era. And I'm going to take a second to explain to you why all of this is so freaking bullish. But first, let's talk about why altcoins have not performed quite the same as they have in the past. And the reason is quite simple. It's Ethereum. Now, I've made this joke a few times, but we're finally starting to see Ethereum actually get accumulated and start to have so much buy pressure that it cannot be suppressed anymore. Now, a quick story. When I was trying to explain to my parents how Black Hole worked and how DEXs worked, the immediate reaction my mom had was to say, well, then what will the banks do? They'll be worthless. And that is exactly what's going on. As soon as DeFi, which is about to get the full regulatory green light, gets adopted en masse, it will take away significant amounts of market opportunity for banks. So they are going to be forced to do one of two things, to either be left behind or to hop on the bandwagon and start to buy into these assets and protocols. My belief is that they will go for option 2, including launching their own protocols. But this will be extremely bullish for Ethereum. And that is why it's not so far-fetched to think that Larry Fink and BlackRock and these other big entities have actually been suppressing the price of ETH over the past few years. They are actually aware of how big DeFi is, how impactful it's going to be on the legacy financial system, and how mission critical it is for big banks to own a significant chunk of the ETH network and all relevant DeFi protocols. So when we joke that almost every major world event has happened after ETH starts pumping, as soon as ETH starts to get some giddy up, we get some geopolitical conflict, we get some massive FUD burger that completely destroys the crypto bull run. And at a certain point, I'm starting to wonder, is it a coincidence or is it a pattern? Because ETH breaking out of this historic level of shorting is going to trigger a massive drop in Bitcoin dominance, and with it, a massive increase in faith in altcoins. I've said this several times, but you can't have faith in altcoins when the number one altcoin is struggling. So as much as people love to hate on ETH and Solana is better, faster, cheaper, etc., the reality is that if you want your altcoins to pump, we should all be bull posting and rooting for Ethereum. And to that effect, I actually, over the last several weeks, have allocated significantly more to Ethereum than I have over the past 2 years. I believe that ETH is setting up for a massive move, and I believe that it will be the backbone of the future of finance. That is what my core thesis about Ethereum is. And if that's true, it has a whole lot higher to go. And if that's true, we will see Bitcoin dominance and the stablecoin dominance drop significantly, as every move up by ETH significantly diminishes Bitcoin dominance. And as Bitcoin dominance starts to work its way lower, at some point, hopefully starting right now, we will see an explosion of money into altcoins on a scale that we have simply never seen before. It will be the biggest alt season in terms of total size of altcoin liquidity and total size of the altcoin sector. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that your altcoin is going to run. In fact, it's worth talking about this right now because whether or not I believe in alt season, it's important to acknowledge that altcoins are 10 times harder to play this cycle versus 2021. This is not this set it and forget it. You can just buy stuff blindly and hope for the best. You need to understand that if your altcoin cannot capture some attention, some liquidity, some real motion in the market, it very well might get left behind. The super low cap stuff is extremely, extremely risky. And that right now in the cycle, we're still at a place where you can buy in to the best altcoins in each category. You don't need to go far down the risk curve to find good stuff. And that if we are right about ETH exploding and alts coming next, that those category leaders will start to become massive magnets for new liquidity. So you don't need to go all the way down the risk curve just yet. This isn't that tail end of the bull run just yet. And if it comes, we'll try to call it as best as we can. In the end, the point of this channel is not to have a crystal ball. It's to have the best risk-adjusted strategy to beat crypto, to essentially make enough money to be free. And that's why we are gambling. We are gambling for our futures. And if you are going to gamble here in crypto, please take on the reality of the risk, which is that any of these altcoins can and regularly do go down 60, 70, 80, even 90 to 99%. That is the reality for altcoins, and you have to absorb that into your soul. We are playing with gun to your head risk in crypto, and we're doing it because if you get it right, you can make a whole boatload of money and actually break free and reclaim your time here on Earth, which is, of course, the highest aspiration in my opinion. But that's a different video. Without further ado, if you're excited for me to jump into the altcoins, smash the like button, destroy that like button, obliterate it for old time's sake for your pal EllioTrades, who's about to rain free black tokens upon you, and make sure to subscribe because we're going to be doing a ton of content. Trying to get back towards that daily vid upload. Maybe we'll get another 2 or 3 videos up per week, but if these start really pumping, if the views start really coming back and the audience is going crazy, I'm going to be putting out as much content as we can. So smash that like button, subscribe, and make sure to leave some feedback in the comment section. Now, make sure you check out my Twitter because by the time this video is up, there will be a tweet effectively going over everything you need to know for the black hole launch and the black token TGE, which is set for Tuesday, July 15th at 6 p.m. PST. You will have about 24 hours to effectively convert your black tokens into VBlack to participate in that first epoch, which is the beginning of this DEX. And that's going to be an absolutely insane thing to witness. I'm so proud of the team, but make sure you check out the X video with the full walkthrough and FAQ. Absolutely required viewing. Please check it out. If you want to get funds over to Avalanche, I highly recommend you check out Debridge. Debridge is an amazing, amazing bridge. So you have coins on Ethereum, so you have USDC on Ethereum. You can actually send that over to Avalanche and receive it in AVAX, and you just connect your wallet and it does this automatically. Or you can even send it to a different wallet if you tick this box down here, this trade and send to another address. So you can actually come from pretty much any token on any chain to AVAX. You can even get USDC on AVAX if you'd prefer that. If you're starting fresh, you don't have any funds on AVAX, you can bridge them over with Debridge, and it's just super seamless. Check them out. I also highly recommend Rabby wallet. If you need a good Ethereum wallet, if you're used to Solana and trading on Solana with Phantom, the equivalent to me in the EVM world and the Ethereum based world is Rabby. It's the best wallet by far. And if you're using Ledgers or Ledger Nanos or whatever your hardware wallet is, you can easily connect it and mass import all your wallets to Rabby. So you can still use Rabby and just use your ledger through Rabby. It also automatically switches chains and does a lot of really intuitive stuff that MetaMask is really just a pain for. So I highly, highly prefer Rabby wallet if you're going to use and interact with Blackhole. So once again, Rabby wallet, use the bridge at Debridge, and you'll be ready to get sucked into the black hole, which is of course already live. You can check it out right now and start getting familiar with the tooling as this is about to get its hard launch moment Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. All right, now let's talk about the altcoins. Let's talk about portfolio construction because I know this is the part that you are very, very excited for. So make sure to smash that like button and let's jump in. First and foremost, let's talk about an allocation breakdown. This is a part that I feel like a lot of people ignore because if you would follow the allocation breakdowns that I've been putting out for the past 2 to 3 years, you'd have been primarily weighted into things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, and those assets alone would have taken up the vast majority of your portfolio, 60% or more. If you did that, you would have struggled to lose as much money as it seems like people lost on the timeline, because I'm guessing they just went all in on one altcoin or a group of altcoins instead of actually balancing the portfolio as I've recommended. So it's important to realize that this type of breakdown is utterly important. It's actually at 105%. So there's actually an additional 5% here. You can trim off of whatever you want. I didn't realize that. But anyway, I would suggest you keep your cash allocation at 25%. And then for the stuff that you have in crypto, this is up to you, but this is about how I have it broken down. And that means that Bitcoin is at a quarter of the bucket. You always want to keep buying Bitcoin. The thing keeps chugging. It's beautiful. But I have started to roll more into Ethereum. It had made its way down to about 10% of the portfolio, back up to about 20%. I think ETH is just going to seriously cook. I'm really excited for the return of the ETH narrative, and with it, the return of altcoin narratives in general. Solana's at 10%, Hype at 5%. These are, of course, the biggest blockchains outside of Ethereum. I mean, Hype has this incredible narrative behind it right now. Coinbase, 5%, Hood, 5%. So Coinbase and Robinhood, I just think you should own them in equal parts. Robinhood is trying to become Coinbase, while Coinbase is trying to become Robinhood, adding stocks. Hood is adding crypto. They're building their own blockchain. It's just going to be a duke it out and see who wins. The market, I think, is valuing them and trading them very similarly right now on the stock market. So it's just nice to kind of ride these together. And then you have what I call the Alt L1 bucket. You have the attention bucket and you have the liquidity bucket. And before I get into this, I'm not holding any circle or MicroStrategy right now. I've rolled those into different bets. I think that there's just better expressions of the bet. I do like circle, I guess, but it's just hard for me to justify those valuations right now. I think there's other ways to expose yourself to stablecoins, which we'll talk about here in the next few minutes. Now, as you might recall, I've been talking a lot about something called the attention liquidity barbell. And this is how I fundamentally view altcoins, is that you have layer ones, and then you have attention coins, and then you have liquidity coins. Now, the attention coins are very obvious because we've been through this Memecoin super cycle. You know what attention-driven assets look like. But it might surprise you to know that I group AI tech into that bucket. I group RWA into that bucket. I group meme coins into that bucket, and I even group gaming coins at their current stage into that bucket. It's important to know what's driving valuations for your coin, whereas liquidity coins are more like DEXs, DeFi, AMMs, lending protocols, stablecoin protocols, anything that has tremendous on-chain functionality and produces revenue or yield for its holders. That is the difference here, is that we're focusing on attention-driven, reflexive assets versus liquidity-driven revenue and yield assets. And I believe you should see them differently because they behave differently in the market. So with that said, the Alt L1 bucket is 5%. These are things like Say or whatever, these other L1s that could potentially come up, Sonic, whatever it might be. Then I have attention tokens here at 15% and liquidity tokens here at 15%. And this is just my altcoin bucket. I'm more heavily weighted into alts than others because I have a higher risk tolerance. I also just have a stronger belief in this. But if you don't have as strong a belief in altcoins, you can just take these down to a couple of percent or lower and chuck it all into Bitcoin. You know, get Bitcoin all the way up to, 60% of your portfolio, whatever it might be. You can do whatever you want. It's your call. Again, this is just my view and my expression of the industry as it currently sits. 25% cash on the sidelines, just in case you need to buy the dip, in case there is some move down, you have funds to buy that dip. All right, before I get into the exact altcoins, I will say we are partnered up with Blofin. Make sure to check out Blofin. You can get up to $10,000 deposit and trade rewards. I was never really a trader, but I do it a lot now. And as I've said, I'm going to be making a super private group for all the best traders in this community. And you can get into that by signing up and trading on Blofin with the link. If you're not a trader, don't do this. But if you are a trader and you're good, you have the skills, you want to show that you are the top of the top, you can get into my private group by trading on this link. And we're going to be analyzing the results in a few months. And I'm also in Q4 of this year going to be giving out 100,000 super tokens to someone who's trading on that link, who's the best of the best trader on that link. And this isn't just about total amount of money spent or total amount of money traded. It's about the quality and accuracy of those trades. So anyone who's really got the skills can qualify for this reward. Again, shout out to Blofin. Trading on them is awesome. And if you're in the US, you can trade on them with no KYC. If you're already signed up for Blofin, you can sign up again with another account using this link. Again, big thanks to Blofin for partnering with the channel. All right, it is time now for the coins that are in this bucket. Now, first of all, Bitcoin, we don't need to go through it. Ethereum, you've just heard my relentless ETH chills. Everything that's happening with the stablecoin bills is good for Ethereum. Ethereum effectively holds the vast majority of stablecoin bills. The US government wants trillions more dollars of stablecoins to come on the blockchain, and that will be literal buyers of short-term US Treasury debt. And that's why they want these stablecoins, because it's a buyer of their debt. It's self-serving. And so if the government wants $2 to $3 trillion more stablecoins, we can assume that they will mostly go onto Ethereum and that they will mostly want to find their way into things like DeFi. It is extremely, extremely bullish for Ethereum and all of its L2s and the whole ecosystem. Ethereum is wildly misunderstood and mispriced, but the current regulatory changes happening this week that are going to get voted on in the very near future are extremely bullish for Ethereum. Coin and Hood, once again, we've talked about this. Solana, of course, is in an interesting transitional phase right now. I do think that Sol is long-term going to be one of the biggest blockchains, and it will probably get another wave, but it's just currently struggling. As we talk, there's the pump fund ICO that's happening. People are all speculating. Is this good for Solana? Is this bad for Solana? Is this going to bring more or less liquidity to Solana? I think in the end, the cult of Solana is one of the most impressive and long-standing and durable things in the crypto space, and it's not going away. And I don't think pump is going to be able to steal their users from Solana. So in the end, Solana just needs to gather its strength and make another move. I think it'll this time be a move on the back of Ethereum's growth as opposed to leading Ethereum's growth. That is my personal thesis, and that's why I have a heavier weighting towards ETH than Solana right now. Then below it is Hyperliquid, which is undeniably the biggest, newest, and most impressive new creation in crypto land, which is to decentralized perps trading. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but this is by far one of the best risk-reward bets in crypto, and the chart is just disgustingly strong. It's impossible to deny. Now, of course, below Hyperliquid, we have two projects that I'm a founder of, Superverse, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, and now Black Hole, which now I'm sure you're pretty familiar with as well. They're in the iconic Superverse green. And again, I'm not going to talk about potential gains and losses from these projects as they're ones that I've co-founded, but just know I'm all in on these and they work perfectly together. Superverse holds a piece of Black Hole nodes and is going to use those to effectively do on-chain buybacks of Super. And Black Hole is being airdropped to Super stakers as well as has the interwoven design. But one of the things that Black Hole is going to do really well is that it's going to be a major catalyst as it's designed for AVAX in general. So if Black Hole blows up and goes absolutely bananas, there will be a huge vacuum of liquidity to AVAX to participate in this new project. And that is effectively the goal of Black Hole, is to start drawing in liquidity from everywhere it can. It's a liquidity engine. And so if that starts to play out, as I'm hoping it will, then AVAX itself should start to do very well. I've been a holder of AVAX since the bottom of the bear market in 2023, and I'm very, very excited. Now, of course, we've also talked ad nauseum about Pengu. I've been beating the drum, and honestly, the Pengu chart is so good, it's hard to believe. This thing was down literally 95%. It was down 95% at its peak lows. And as it started to break free here, if we change the daily, you'll see as it started to break free through this weekly candle, we started to scream, hey, look, there's something going on with Pengu. You simply cannot bet against Luca Nets and the Pengu team. And this is absolutely absurd. It's up almost 800% from the lows, and it's about to break its all-time highs. And in my opinion, it's trying to become the #1 meme in the whole industry. We'll see if it gets there. Memecoin, again, nothing else to say except this has been absolutely incredible performance from the lows. It's one of the reasons why it's in my blue chip meme category, and it is still the best expression of the ETH trade. Along with that, we have Fartcoin, which hasn't gone as crazy over the last few weeks. And then we also have Pepe. Those are the big memes. To me, that's the big four. I've been screaming about this being the big four for quite some time. Pepe will definitely have its time in the sun, and it usually catches a bit of a delayed pump from MOG. So this is something that I'm looking at right now to make a move to kind of follow this explosive MOG price action. But there it is. That's my 4 memes. To me, you don't really need any more memes to capture the potential for a meme coin super cycle. Again, you could potentially look at SPX 6900. I don't hold any, but I do respect the fact that there's only a few real big memes that are making splashes. But this is my 4. I'm sticking to it, and I'm so excited to see where these go. I mean, Pengu's just been absolutely silly, the performance. Next, in the AI sector, I think Tau and Taubot are a really nice kind of interplay here, where Tau is this AI major, which is kind of like the Bitcoin of AI tech. This is a very interesting place to be. It's a multi-billion-dollar protocol backed by some of the biggest in the industry, so it's not going to have this explosive, reflexive price action, but it could very well capture a significant expression of the AI crypto trade. And as a beta play to Tau doing well, I think Taubot is one that we've been holding, we've been talking about on this channel. I think because of its low market cap, if Tau explodes up 5 or 10x from here, Taubot will go at least 10x, potentially more. And this is by far, in my opinion, one of the best beta plays to Tau. So this is a nice major and micro cap kind of barbell way to play AI tech within the space. You could add virtuals to this or something like that. I also have Desync as a nice mid cap. Again, Desync was super hot back in the last market cycle. And there's a ton more sort of lower mid cap AI tech coins that I still own. All the ones that I was talking about, I pretty much still own every single one of those. And those should perform as things get a bit more frothy for alts. But now as we get down to this final category, which is the DeFi category, I want to keep in mind that DeFi to me is a totally different expression of a trade. This isn't a quick flip, hype cycle type thing. To me, DeFi right now is looking to have its Magnificent Seven moment, where it's about to get the regulatory green light, and the Wall Street suits that have been buying up Bitcoin now are buying up Ethereum, are going to look for institutional grade DeFi that they can funnel money into, not for the next few weeks, not as a quick flip, not as a narrative play, but as a way to own the future of finance. And that to me is something that we will see develop not just over the next few weeks, but over the coming years and even decades. This is the beginning, I feel, of DeFi's Magnificent Seven. And of course, there will be more than seven or a different number than seven, but the key here is to identify what are the ultimate biggest winners in DeFi, because I believe Wall Street will go after those with a reckless abandon, that they are going to be obsessed with DeFi. And so in trying to anticipate this and knowing that Wall Street will absolutely have to get ahead of this or potentially be left behind, this is my DeFi majors basket. You could add Uniswap here, but you have Maker Sky. This is, in my opinion, a way better risk-adjusted play than the Circle bet, because this is trading at only a few times its actual PE, or its sort of like revenue multiples. And this is by far, in my opinion, one of the best stablecoin plays in the industry, Maker Sky. You have Aave, which is the leading borrow-lend facility in crypto. Borrowing and lending, again, this is something that's done by the banks, but it won't be for a very long time. You have Euler. This is a slightly lower cap one. This has been going absolutely crazy since we brought it to you. We've been talking about this one pretty consistently all year, and look at this. This thing is just up only. Absolutely insane. Look at that chart. Look at the chart of some of these, DeFi majors. You have Pendle, of course, consolidating here, but I mean, look at Syrup on the weekly chart. I mean, this thing is just channeling its way up to Valhalla. Obviously, Sky, the newer token, is still kind of trying to get out of this range, but it's way better looking than a lot of other charts. You have Aerodrome. Again, I think this one's just a little stalled out. I think it's going to make a really big push up. I think Aerodrome, again, being totally integrated into the Coinbase exchange. Again, it's had a huge move up from April, but I still think that this one has a lot of room to go because it's essentially the best bet on Base. If you want to extrapolate the growth of Base, you can pretty much just buy Aerodrome because this DEX has been officially integrated into Coinbase. So it kind of holds the keys to the kingdom to keep growing and compounding with the growth of Base chain. And so this is pretty insane. And I think that this one is still not fully understood by the market. You have Athena, which again is pretty close to the range lows. I did a video where I said, hey, look, if you wanted to long Athena here and you have just, below this bottom weekly low or below this all-time low at about 20 cents, that would be your stop loss. And then you could just take a long here because the upside is insane just to get back to the prior all-time high. As you can see, it's doing well since I put this little long position on here. And Pendle, again, I mean, look at this. This looks like a bullish consolidation where if it breaks out here, it could easily race up. Now, on top of that, you have Jito and Jupiter and Radium. This is essentially your Solana on-chain package, which means whatever's happening on Solana, it's going to go through Jito, Jupiter, and Radium. These are the DEXs and the validators. Like Jito's the validator, Jupiter's the aggregator, and Radium is the core DEX on Solana. It's kind of like the Aerodrome play on Base, but you're essentially allocating to the on-chain ecosystem of Solana and betting that owning the tools to trade is going to be valuable on one of the most popular trading platforms, Solana. Well, there you have it. Here we are at an asymmetric moment for crypto. We've definitely been kicked in the teeth in similar moments where expectations are high and prices look like they're going to go to Valhalla. This time, social metrics are ice cold. There's not 300K views on each of these videos. Of course, maybe when we get back there, that would be a sign that maybe things are getting a bit frothy. Though I'm a believer that each cycle is bigger than the last. And given all of the structural changes around coming rate cuts, around crypto legislation, around regulatory green lights, around the commitment by the US government to continue spending like drunken sailors, this is a time to be holding scarce assets that are literally designed for this moment. Like I said, we're always gambling for a future, but it's a pleasure to be rolling next to you all. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on this one popping up right now, as I'm sure you'll love it. And don't forget, Black Hole goes live tomorrow, and it will be a privilege to get sucked into the black hole with all of you.